Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome to Guns N' Roses Central, and we're back with another episode of Guns N' Roses True Story. Today we're talking about the incident that occurred in 2006. Guns N' Roses were touring, and they had a band called the Eagles of Death Metal opening up for them. Now, what ended up happening is, it was, I believe in Cleveland, Ohio, Guns N' Roses were playing a show. Sebastian Bach was on tour with the band, as well as Eagles of Death Metal who opened for Guns N' Roses. The Eagles were supposed to support Guns N' Roses for a number of dates, but it turned out that they were fired by Axl Rose on stage, and it basically escalated to a war of words. So I'll let Jesse Hughes of the Eagles of Death Metal explain exactly what happened at that show in 2006.
He shows up 45 minutes late, and it was like Stepford Wives. Everyone acts like Stepford Wives, and you know that that's because of a maniacal fucking regime, and I can't respect that because it's an outrage and it's a disrespect for the opportunity you have. So anyway, when he goes on stage 3 songs into it, he says, "What did y'all think of the Pigeons of Shit Metal? Well, you better feel sorry for them little fellers because they're no longer on the tour." So I was drinking something at the time and literally went, pfft. Now me being who I am, I immediately went, "Press." Yes. And then I was kind of hurt because I didn't understand it. You know, I went there completely wanting to be approved of by one of my idols, and here he was shitting on me in the most outrageously disrespectful way. You know, it was classless. It was like not Axl Rose, it was like Waxl Rose, or I'm not on Paxl Rose, or something like that.
So according to MTV News, who published a report about what went down that night in Ohio, so Guns N' Roses had Sebastian Bach open for them, and Sebastian Bach was pretty well received by the crowd. But when the Eagles of Death Metal took the stage, according to John Soder, who is a pop critic for the Cleveland Plain Dealer, the band was met with not defeating boos, but lots of grumbling and grousing and indifference. While a handful of people were dancing along to the Eagles' good time sleazy garage rock, Soder explained that a majority of the audience just was not into it and even a bit confused by the group. After a 2-hour wait for the headliners Guns N' Roses, Axl came out and promptly dissed the Eagles, asking the audience, "So how'd you like the Pigeons of Shit Metal? Don't worry, that's the last show they're playing with us." And just like that, the Eagles were tossed out of the nest. So the Eagles took Rose's kiss off with the usual fistful of salt. At first, the audience refused to welcome us to the jungle, but by the time we took our final bow, it had become Paradise City, read a statement from the band released a couple days after the show. Although Axl tried to November Rain our parade, no sweet child of mine can derail the EODM night train, we say live and let die. Immediately following the Cleveland show, Guns N' Roses were supposed to play a show in Milwaukee, but they ended up canceling because Axl was suffering from an ear infection and strep throat, according to the band's website at the time. Now, according to a fan who attended the show, he claimed that Axl seemed a bit pissed off or annoyed during the show. He had some fans thrown out at the beginning of Guns N' Roses' set, and then he kept making references to the Pigeons of Shit Metal throughout the set as well. Axl also wasn't apparently happy with the sound guy and even referred to him as useless throughout the show. So the Eagles of Death Metal frontman also elaborated on what exactly happened that night opening for Guns N' Roses. He claimed that Guns N' Roses bassist at the time, Tommy Stinson, threw his bass at Axl and said, "F you, Axl Rose," to which Axl picked up the bass and threw it back at Stinson. And despite reports claiming that the band were thrown off the tour for their poor reception they received, Hughes said by the end of the show, the Eagles of Death Metal managed to win the fans over. He said, "When we first walked out there, the crowds were jeering us, but it was because we weren't Axl Rose," he admitted. "These kids have been waiting there since 7 o'clock for the second coming of Christ, and Axl wasn't there. So a bunch of happy-go-lucky, sincere, and real-deal rock and rollers come out and started playing. The jeers only went on for a little bit, but by the end, we'd won those effers over." Despite throwing his band off tour, Hughes claims that the band's tour manager then received a call later that night from Axl Rose's management apologizing for the singer's actions, and he asked them to return for the remainder of the dates for Guns N' Roses' 3-week tour. "By the end of the night, that guy, Rose, had caused a giant uproar," said Hughes. "It was like a total mutiny on the part of his band and everyone. I could hear screaming in the dressing room, 'Those are our friends and you've insulted our friends.' Then at 4 in the morning, our tour manager gets a phone call, which is essentially amounted to Axl thought about it, and he thought you guys were the band getting shoved on this tour from the label. He's really sorry, and you're more than welcome to finish the tour. When my manager told me that, I just said, you can tell that mother effer to go and F himself because I will never go through that again." So immediately following Jesse Hughes' interviews, Guns N' Roses responded. Actually, their manager responded. So Mercuratis, at the time, who was GNR's manager, disagreed with Hughes' accounts of the event. He said there's no truth to the claim that Axl fired a crew member or that Tommy Stinson threw down his bass, as evidenced by the fact that our crew remains identical to when the tour started almost 6 weeks ago. And to say that Axl threw a bass at Tommy is pure fiction, he told MTV. Also, the manager went on to say that the Eagles of Death Metal were asked to leave the tour not only because Guns N' Roses' audience hated them and tore them apart, but because they could not handle the response. They were supposed to play a 60-minute set but left the stage after 42 minutes due to the hostile reception. The facts do not support the image that they're trying to portray, which is that they're attempting to put this spin on it. So Jesse Hughes also talked about getting some support from Foo Fighters frontman Dave Grohl after being insulted by Axl Rose on stage, and also how the Eagles of Death Metal got paid for every single show they were supposed to open for Guns N' Roses, even though they got kicked off the tour early.
And then Dave Grohl, being the ultimate fucking sweetheart, not only a great friend but a true rock ally, made his press statement on AOL that being disapproved of by Axl is like being knighted by the Queen. And next thing you know, I'm in every fucking streaming banner on AOL. I mean, that made my career. It literally was a defining moment in my career in rock and roll. We got kicked off the tour, and I got paid for every motherfucking show. Because let me tell you how Axl works, and I took advantage of business, and I'm not a dummy. Just for the money issue, Axl can't get anyone to work for him unless he pays them in advance, because he notoriously cancels tours, and you just can't live like that, you know. Because he demands the best, the fucking best, whatever. So that's his business model. So in order for us to even begin the tour, we had to be paid in advance.
So in the years that would follow the feud, Jesse Hughes would be repeatedly asked about the incident with Guns N' Roses. He shed a little bit more light in terms of how they actually ended up on the tour with GNR back in 2006. So he did an interview with the website called Cue the Music, and they were asked, how did you guys get booted off the GNR tour? He said, we were on tour with Joan Jett, and we got a call from Tommy Stinson to play with GNR, and it was the greatest honor ever, because quite frankly, Appetite for Destruction is single-handedly the greatest rock and roll album truly ever made of the old world, in my opinion, and every member of GNR, Izzy, Slash, Duff, are all big heroes of mine. He also went out and lashed at Axl's version of Guns N' Roses at the time. He said, Axl isn't a representative of rock and roll anymore. You don't make an album like Chinese Democracy and have any respect for anyone. You don't waste millions and millions of dollars and literally kill a couple of businesses if you respect them at all. And if you don't respect what you are, The Rock went to Velvet Revolver with Slash and Duff McKagan, and Axl is just left with two letters, GR. So that does it for this episode of Guns N' Roses Central. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of GR True Story. Let me know your thoughts down below in the description box, and be sure to hit the subscribe button if you want to see more, and if you just love GNR in general. Take care, guys.